this is probably the latest review that I am doing in terms of a game just finished on a Sunday night. But in terms of these two games that happened on Sunday night, we had one that was an absolute snooze fest, and then we had one that was so crazy that I feel so bad for all those people in the East Coast, except for Union fan that was watching this game that most likely have missed this one because the game kicked off so late between LAFC versus the Union. It didn't even kick off until around 8 o'clock Pacific time and 11 p.m. Eastern time. And by the time that this game ends, it was already around 1 a.m. Eastern time. But let's talk about the game that was a bit of a snooze fest, which is the Portland Timbers getting a 1-0 win against Nashville. And, if you're a Timbers fan, on one hand, you're happy the fact that the team is able to get 3 points at home, but on the other, there is definitely a lot of concern coming out of this game with the way that the Timbers play today. Now, there was a lot of empty seats around Providence Park, which I'm assuming it's because of the coronavirus situation. We saw that happen in Seattle, where there was a lot of empty seats at CenturyLink Field, and we saw a lot that happened down at the Quake Stadium, although it was partially the coronavirus that was keeping Quakes fans from attending games, and it was also raining cats and dogs during that game between the Quakes and the Loons that kept fans from attending the game. Now, in the first half, Diego Valeri scored an absolute brilliant volley from Andy Polo to give the Timbers a 1-0 lead, but that's all the Timbers did in terms of the attack and the only chance that they had in the entire game, because for whatever reason, they decided that the rest of the game they're just going to sit back and defend and hope that they can again hold on to this 1-0 lead. And it was just so extreme that in the 27th minute, this would be the last time that the Portland Timbers would register a shot. I mean, they went 63 minutes in this game without registering a shot, and it is not very often that you see a team that have gone that long of not registering a shot, and yet they're still able to get a victory out of it. Now, as I said, the Timbers, they decided to sit back and have Nashville have all the ball. Although I will give credit to Nashville doing a good job in terms of having possession, and they also did a good job of not letting the Timbers kind of go to switch up play and trying to go on the attack, and they did a great job cutting out those passes that the Timbers had every time in the midfield to keep possession. But at the same time, Nashville, as it's been the case probably for most of their remaining season, they just lack that final product. And, because of the fact that Nashville, who had all the possession but couldn't really quite find a final product, and a combination of the Timbers just decided to let Nashville have all the ball and being very poor in terms of going forward on the attack, the game was very slow paced and it was just very, very disjointed. And in the second half, same thing. Portland decided to sit back and let Nashville have all the possession and pretty much dictate the entire play, but Nashville couldn't really quite find that final product for majority of the game. But despite the fact that I understand why the Timbers decided to do this, because they're kind of really asking Nashville, can you break us down? Can you produce a moment of magic to potentially tie this game up? I thought this was also a dangerous thing that the Timbers do, because we've seen before where teams decided to just kind of sit back and try to hang on to an early goal that they score. Most of the time, it does not work out very well. And, Nashville, despite the fact that they were kind of lacking in terms of that quality, if they can just have one good opportunity and one good look, or maybe just kind of a lucky bounce that is in the way, this game could have easily been at 1-1, and they did have some chances late in the game. In the 70th minute, Annabelle Godoy, the former Quakes player, had a potential equalizer and a potential laser shot from about 25 yards out that was saved by Steve Clark. And then right near the end of the game, Walker Zimmerman, who was the goal scorer of last week and the player that scored the first ever goal for Nashville history, almost repeat heading into this game. Well, not really repeat, but almost score another one for Nashville after he basically hit a looping header that just went wide of the post. And at this point, I feel like for Nashville, since they don't really have a striker for, you might as well just put Walker Zimmerman as your striker, because he seems like he's the guy that most likely is the most lethal going forward on the attack, and the guy that probably will score you most of the goals. So something tells me that maybe Gary Smith, the Nashville head coach, should think about putting Walker Zimmerman not only being a center back, but also being a player on the attacking end. And when that happens, he might think about putting him in the midfield or maybe in the attacking midfield because of that. But still, unfortunately, Nashville wasn't able to find that final quality that they need. And because of that, they lost 1-0 in this game to the Timbers. And the Timbers, to tell you how they were just holding on in this game and how they weren't really even thinking about going forward on the attack, they only had 3 shots in this game compared to 14 that Nashville has. 2 shots on goal compared to 4 that Nashville has. 1 shot off target compared to 7 that Nashville has. No shots that was blocked compared to 3 that Nashville has. And possession-wise, 48% possession compared to 52% possession. And I think this is one of the few time, and probably one of the first time I've ever seen a team only had 3 shots in the entire game, and yet they're still walk out with a 1-0 victory, which is definitely not something that you want to achieve, but I guess the Timbers will take it, and that hopefully this is going to be something that is not going to happen on a regular basis. I mean, I understand that they probably want to defend and want to force Nashville to try to maybe going forward. And they know that Nashville doesn't have that final product, so they decided to kind of sit back a little bit and see if they can do it. But sometimes, even when you're facing teams that might not have a final product, as I said before, if Nashville would have had one good moment or maybe a lucky bounce that going away, this game would have completely changed, and that this game could have been a draw or a win for Nashville, and there will definitely be a lot of questions that Giovanni Savarese will have to ask. And I think even after this win, there's going to be still question in terms of the way that they play in this game, because this was a very uninspiring, and in some way you could even say a very lucky resort for the Portland Timbers. If they play like this against a team that actually have strikers that can finish, yeah, they are going to lose this game 99 out of 100 times, and they're going to need to get better if they want to potentially make themselves into the playoffs, because the way that they play in the first 2 games, this does not tell me this team is going to not only compete for MLS Cup, but even making the playoffs. And, for Nashville, again, yeah, just that final product is still not there with this team, and I really feel like if they just have that goal scored, and I hope that maybe they eventually will sign it either during the next couple of weeks or maybe during the summer transfer window, but if they can have a goal scorer on this team, this can be a very lethal team, because this team has a good midfield and a good defense, but the only thing that's missing is that they need a goal scorer on this team to put the ball into the back of the net. But moving on, in terms of the next match and the final match of this week is the crazy match. So, if you're watching this and you, of course, miss out on this game, my sincere condolence to you of missing out what was one of the craziest game that we have seen, and by far the craziest game that we have seen so far this year. And that's no disrespect to what we saw earlier when the Loons put 5 past the Quakes, and it was a 5-2 victory. I mean, I know MLS Soccer actually said that was a 7-goal thriller. No, it was not a 7-goal thriller. It was more like a massacre of a 7-goal game that happened in this one. This one, however, it was a little bit different, because at least both teams was scoring goals, and at least both teams looked very competitive. And in the second minute, Rossi looked like gave LAFC a 1-0 lead, but for the second week in a row, he was denied of a goal because of offside, and it was right around that same time last week against Inter Miami that he got denied of an offside, and it happened again against the Union. The game was very fast-paced, and it was fast-paced throughout the whole 90 minutes, which is why it made this game so crazy and so kind of open. And in some way, I kind of feel like I should have knew that this was going to be like this, because these are two teams that tends to like to open themselves up and like to be very fast-paced in terms of how they want to play their game. Now, in the 15th minute, there was a bit of a scary incident where Vela, unfortunately, it seemed like his left knee accidentally knocked Blake out a little bit. Blake did had to like go through that concussion check, and it was kind of a lengthy delay because of that. And the good news is he is okay, and I think this is kind of another example, and I think even the broadcaster John Strong and Stu Hone even talk about how, FIFA, they're going to have to eventually come up with a situation where if you have a guy that is potentially suffering from concussion, there should be a temporary substitution that is made. Although I have heard MLS have working on becoming the first league to potentially have that rule where if there is a player that potentially suffers some concussion symptoms, then there should be a temporary substitution, and that player, of course, sub in for the player that had that concussion that is subbing off will not count in terms of the total sub that a team can make. Now, in the 29th minute, Philly opened up the scoring, and it would be Sergio Santos scores from Montero. And, I thought it was a decent goal that Sergio Santos scored from about 25 yards out, but in some way, you could kind of argue that Vermeer probably should have done better, and I actually didn't even finish writing here to say that Vermeer, I thought he should have done better and probably would have had that one back, because the way that he kind of drift to the left to try to save that, it seemed like he was kind of caught a little bit off guard and kind of saw that one late. But nevertheless, it was a great goal from Sergio Santos, and great goal would be something that I will mention a couple of times in this game, because there was some great goals that was scored in this game, including one that you could argue have already been in an early contention of goal of the year. Now, in the 39th minute, LAFC equalized, and it's Vela for the second week in a row provide a moment of magic, scoring a free kick, which is the 50th MLS goal that he has scored, and I believe he's also the third fastest goal scorer to ever reach 50 the mark. Only Joseph Martinez and Zlatan are the one that is able to reach the 50 mark faster than what Carlos Vela did. So congratulations of him reaching that milestone. But as we head to halftime at 1 apiece, I mean, we already saw some crazy thing that has happened in this game. Get ready and strap in your seatbelt, because the second half, and especially the first 10 minutes of the second half, was some of the most craziest things I have, or some of the most craziest spell I've ever seen in an MLS game. And it all started in the 48th minute when Jacob Glenso scored what could be the goal of the year contention goal, when he just absolutely rocket that one from 40 yards out. Like, originally when I saw him trying to tick it, I was shocked the fact that I saw him decide to take that one, because a lot of players, when they decide to take a free kick from about 40 yards out, every time they decide to just dink it into the box or take that one short. I mean, not a lot of players decide to take it, and even if they decide to take it, it usually go horribly wrong. But this one was anything but horribly wrong. This was hit with just such a pace and such a knuckle into the top left that Vermeer just had pretty much no chance of saving that. And again, I really felt like not only this is going to be the goal of the week, and I would be surprised if this is not the goal of the week, but this could be an early contention of what could be the best goal we've seen this season in MLS. But before we can kind of just completely get soaked in terms of an incredible goal that we saw, Diego Rossi would equalize for LAFC from Marc-Anthony Kaye, and this was also another nice goal with the way that Rossi was able to kind of receive it and then hits that one to the top right corner. Almost a very Vela-esque kind of goal, but that now ties the game up at 2 apiece. And then in the 51st minute, it looked like Rossi gave LAFC the lead, but for the second time tonight, he was denied of that goal because he was in an offside position, and on replay, he was clearly in an offside position. In fact, the first one was relatively close. This one was not close at all. I mean, he was at least a yard or two offside. Then 1 minute later, Rossi had another chance to give LAFC the lead. But Andre Blake, who I thought he kind of had an up and down night in terms of his performance. I mean, there was times where you probably could argue he could have done better in terms of some of the effort that he does. But there's times where he was really on that MVP form that he was in 2016 when he won the goalkeeper of the year. He robbed Blake in that, or he robbed Rossi in this situation, and then 3 minutes later he would make a double save. I believe it was from Vela and Rodriguez to keep this one tied at 2 apiece. But yeah, that 10 minutes was some of the most craziest sequence that I have ever seen before, and it's just gonna get even crazier because in the 66th minute, Jacob Gensnes, who scored that absolute wonderful goal early in the second half, almost gave the Union the lead again when he had a free header that unfortunately hits the post. Eventually, the Union did get that lead back when Brendan Aronson scores from Sergio Santos to give the Union a 3-2 lead. But for the third time tonight, LAFC was able to equalize, and for the second time tonight, that lead would be short-lived because Segura would score to make it 3-3 in this game. And I wrote potential obstruction because I thought maybe Blake was kind of obstructed by one of the LAFC player, but the referee says that there was no obstruction whatsoever, and LAFC, for the third time tonight, was able to tie the game up. Now, LAFC really pushed hard late in this game to trying to get this fourth goal, and I thought the Union really started to kind of ran out of gas in terms of the attacking end, and I don't blame them for running out of gas because this was just an incredible fast-paced game. This felt like something you see in FIFA Ultimate Team with the way that this game was played. And right near the end of the game, Brian Rodriguez almost scored his first ever goal in MLS he almost scored his first ever goal for LAFC, and Andre Blake comes up big to rob him in that situation in the 96th minute, and that's how the final act of what a crazy game this was between LAFC and the Union ends, as it ends 3-3 between both of these teams. Shots in this game, 21 shots compared to 9 that the Union has, 11 shots on goal compared to 5 that the Union has, 5 shots off target compared to 2 that the Union has, 5 shots that was blocked compared to 2 that the Union has, and possession-wise, 63% possession compared to 37% possession that the Union has. And, you know, if you're the Union, as much as they're going to be a little bit frustrated the fact that they had the lead 3 times in this game only to give it away 3 times to LAFC. This was just an incredible performance by this team, and they just performed so much better than what they did last week against Dallas, and that if they can continue to perform like this for the rest of the season, then yeah, they are going to be a team that could be like last season where they're going to finish in the top 4 or even the top 3 in the Eastern Conference. And as for LAFC, I mean, this is kind of a little bit of a frustrating performance because, you know, despite the fact that they show some fight to come back going down 3 times in this game, you know, they could have easily won this game if they were a little bit more clinical in front of goal. And the other thing that is a little bit worrying about LAFC in this game is they spend a ton of energy just to get a draw at home, and you wonder the fact that they spend so much energy in this game, is that going to come back to haunt them on Thursday when they play Cruz Azul? And keep in mind, when they play Cruz Azul, that is a home game that they are playing. So this is not like last time where LAFC, you know, they go down to Mexico, and if they don't get a resort, they can come back to Bank of California Stadium and have the home fans in favor of them, and that they can maybe overturn a deficit that they had in Mexico. No, this is not going to be the case. They have to get a good start in this game. Otherwise, if they play against Cruz Azul on Thursday, and if they cannot get a good result out of that game, they could definitely be in big trouble heading down to Mexico and play against Cruz Azul there, and that they could potentially be knocked out of CCL and probably won't have another incredible comeback like they did in the last round. But either way, there you have it. That is pretty much it in terms of the 2 games that I have reviewed on Sunday. Let me know in the comments below, what do you think of these game, I mean, these two games couldn't be more bipolar in terms of the action and the entertainment we saw in the Sunday action. But either way, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys next time.